Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I am your host, Courtney Anderson. And so for today's show, we have an episode that is part of our Help Situation Spotlight series. Of course, our Help Situation Spotlight is where members of our community share concerns, questions, issues with me, and that helps craft some ideas to share solutions, potentially explore potential obstacles and challenges, and to continue to grow and work towards surpassing all of our goals. So today is an really interesting episode. Today specifically, our episode is addressing how am I supposed to follow my passion when I don't know what it is? Initially, when I was putting this together and looking over some of the notes for this program, I have to share that for a while, for years, people would basically share this same sentiment with me at a speech, at a corporate education program on site at an organization. At times, I've worked with select people who want to work in a professional mentoring or collaborative program together. And when people start to say to me, "Well, how am I supposed to follow my passion?" I don't know what it is. For a while, I really didn't accept this. I think I think my perception was that people were saying this, but that they were not being completely honest with themselves, because I thought, well, how can you not know, what you're excited about? I mean, to me, it sounded analogous to someone saying, like, how am I supposed to know if I'm hungry? Because I felt like you feel it, right? Like, don't you just feel it? Like, this is interesting. I'm interested in this. I'm engaged in this. I want to learn more about this. That's passion. I sort of said that, and I've even done education programs and speeches where I've shared sort of an idea, like, hey, if you tell me you don't know what your passion is, or sometimes people will say, well, I don't know what my dream is, okay, which to me is somewhat similar, not exactly the same, but somewhat similar. I used to give the advice, well, that's like me asking you, do you like spinach? And people would say, well, yeah, I like spinach or I don't like spinach. And I would ask, well, how do you know? Like, how do you know that you like spinach? Or how do you know that you hate spinach? And then people would say, well, because I ate it. And then I would ask them, do you like chocolate? And people would say, a lot of people will say, yeah, I love chocolate. Chocolate is awesome. I have to just add anecdotally, I don't know what it is, but I was born one of these people that just, at the smell of chocolate, the taste of it is it's just kind of gross. I don't know what it is that's, in my taste buds or in my sense of smell or something, but I just never have gotten that. But I just had to add that because it seems like one of those things that most people are like, it's delicious, and I just like, ew, really? But how do I know that? How do I know I don't like chocolate? Because to me, it smells bad, and it tastes bad, and I know that because I smelled it and I ate it, and every time I tried it, it was still bad. So now, when I was younger and like a child, at a certain point, every time I'd go to some other young peers, holiday party or birthday party or something, they're, oh, it's chocolate cake, don't you want some? And I'm like, no, I don't really want any. Oh, come on, it's so good. And I was like, no, I just don't like the way it tastes. Like, I really don't want it. I'm not trying to be polite, I just don't like it. I knew it because I tasted it or I smelled it and I just didn't like it. I mean, that was it. There's no analysis. I wasn't sitting somewhere in some sort of deep, intensive program to try to figure out, do I like chocolate? The same goes for spinach. Pretty much, most things to me seem sort of just evident. I mean, I'm not, I didn't, like I said, I've never invested time in this. I just sort of accepted that, okay, I trust my senses and my reactions and my conclusion that my body or my mind or my nose or my tongue or my ears don't like something, or they do like it, and I just go with it. I mean, it's not. This is incredibly oversimplistic, but it honestly is how I figured out a lot of these things. And to me, it's the same thing with passion. How do you know what you're passionate about? So that you can begin to figure it out, so you can follow it. Ideally, I just went out and did things. So to me, it was similar. As a young person, in school they had physical activity, physical education, and we try lots of different physical activities. And so I learned when I tried it that I didn't like, playing most sports, partially because I'm not coordinated. So softball or even volleyball, or I'm not coordinated enough to be able to be good at it. And I just didn't like it. And I knew that because I tried it. And then I was like, I don't really like this. So that would tell me immediately, I don't think I'm probably going to be like a professional, volleyball player or softball player or track star. I did like swimming. And I stuck to that all the way through college. I did swimming. I liked, I like walking. So I found my space. I wasn't good. I wasn't fast. I couldn't have been a competitive swimmer. I just liked it. I'm not, I don't know if I just like the water. I figured out enough, to be a decent swimmer. So there you go. I just tried it, just like I would try chocolate or spinach or anything else, and then I liked it. And then if I didn't like it, then I figured then that's probably not my passion. Was I making this sort of analysis, in 5th grade? No. But I mean, that's, to me, the foundation of so much of this in life. And a lot of times, I'll read something or see some sort of report in the media about somebody who's, a very young age, like they might be in their 20s, but they're, an amazingly talented, accomplished musician, or they're an amazingly accomplished chess player, or they're an amazingly accomplished athlete, and they're doing all these wonderful things. But a lot of times when you sit and look into the narrative behind that, they've been doing it for a long time. So they might be, 21, but they've been at this since they're like 11. So, they're a decade into every day doing it. And you see that in a lot of the very sort of, worldwide famous people in different fields will put out materials or give speeches, which is expected, right? Share your secrets. We all want to know. And a lot of people will say, like, professional golfers, or, I was doing this since I was a little kid. I was 4 years old, and I did it every day, pretty consistently. And not that they knew then that they wanted to do it forever, but a lot of times in the healthiest scenario, their child really did either have some interest in it, or after a parent or another adult exposed them to it, they really did show, A, that they liked it, and B, that there was some potential talent. And then if you stick at something that you like, right, and that you and have potential to be better at, and it's fun for you, then boom, there you have a passion. And if you start doing that really early, you've been doing it since you're 4 years old. By the time you're 20, you've been at it. Wow. And that's typically how I think these things happen. I think that part of it, of course, is exposure. Like, I would never know I didn't like chocolate if nobody ever gave it to me. I would never know I didn't like spinach if no one ever gave it to me. So that's part of it. But as we're adults and I meet people, and like I said, years ago I would think, oh, these people must just, are they kidding? How do you not know what you're passionate about? What? But I've taken more, academic classes. I've tried to educate myself more and try to address and try to delve into this a little bit deeper. Is it possible people really feel like they don't know what they're passionate about? I think it is. I don't necessarily think that I was totally wildly off base with my initial sort of reaction, like thinking, well, how can you claim you don't know what you like? I mean, you are you, right? So don't you hear something or do something or taste something or touch something or smell something and kind of know, like, I like it, I don't like it. But part of it, like I said, I've realized as I've spent more time and hopefully gotten a little bit wiser over the years, is part of it's the exposure part. So a lot of times people really don't know because they just didn't get exposed to a lot of different things. And that's no one, there's no one to blame for what happened to us as we were young people growing up and what we were exposed to. So if somebody, had an environment and a upbringing where they just don't know. They never tried it. No one ever, had the opportunity for them to see if they like chocolate or find out if they like, baseball. So that's part of it. And I think, I think there's a lot of recognition of that, worldwide, and there's a lot of outreach for different types of experiences to reach more young people so that they can have a diversity of experiences. One, who knows how many people we'd find out are fantastic, cello players if only they had exposure to the cello. So I really do support. In the U.S., it's free public education and the arts in these schools for everyone. If they're in a rural area, sparsely populated, if they're in a densely populated, urban area, I want every young person to have as much exposure, even if it's just, limited amounts, to as much as they can, so they can begin to start to figure out. That's, sort of where you put your finger in all the different, puddings, and you sort of see which one do I like. But you don't know if no one can give you opportunities. So I do support that, and I do recognize and understand that providing expanded exposure is a key to this. So sometimes I think when I've been a little bit dismissive of somebody's argument, like I really don't know what I'm passionate about, I don't think I've stopped to understand maybe what their exposure situation was. As I've shared, I grew up in what they call a military brat culture. So my father was in the U.S. military, and that just meant that we moved around a lot. So I didn't live in any one place for very long, and I got exposed to all different parts of the world, right? And that's unusual. That's something that gave me an advantage. So I've lived in so many different types of environments and so many different parts of the world. One, I learned a lot of really positive things. I learned not to be frightened of change, because typically I was moving about every 18 months. So I knew very early on I'm going to have to go to a totally new place and meet totally new people and start all over again from the beginning. And that made my perspective, even though I'm very introverted and as a child extremely shy, I have confidence in my abilities to be okay, because I can make it in small towns, I can make it in urban cities, I can make it in all different types of climates. I can make it, and it's good, because now when I am an adult and I've traveled all over for work, most places I go, I can say, hey, I lived in this area, or I live close to it, or I lived in this region, or I lived in this part of the world, or I was born and spent the first several years of my life in Europe, and it just gives me sort of it's like everywhere at some level is sort of home, and it's easy to connect with people. So all that's to say, part of how we know what our passion is we need more exposure. So again, I just shared that I totally support and do everything I can, and hope to do more in the future, more exposure for people of all situations around the world. And I mentioned the U.S. just because I'm based here, and through anything that we can, exposure. That may be the greatest cellist. That may be somebody who we find out loves, physics that nobody knew because they hadn't been exposed to it. They may find out that they're a future, poet. We don't know, but we have to expose them so they can begin to figure out, like we all do. Do I like this? Does it taste awesome, or does it taste yucky? I don't know. I never tried it. So they need that. And that's one part of it. As adults, if you're an adult and you think that might be part of your equation for why you're not really sure what your passion is, now this is a totally different situation. You're an adult, and this is your time, and it is your chance. You have got to expose yourself, and you've got to get out there and start just experimenting. Eat different things. Listen to different types of music. Read different types of literature, or expose yourself to different types of art. You need to get out in the world. Now, you might be able to, if you have the resources to literally get out in the world, and if you have the time and the finances and the freedom to do so with your schedules, I strongly encourage you. You need to literally get out into the world and just start going different places you've never been, and just start learning, because we'll never. I sometimes when I'm feeling really positive and excited, I'll stop and think I'll never be able to learn enough. There's just so much on this planet. Everywhere you go, there's so much to explore, and there's so much history and culture and, politics and just nuance. I mean, it's exciting to me, but sometimes I feel like, I'm not going to get to go everywhere, which is, obvious. No one does, but that's part of it. If you're thinking, well, hey, I'd be, exposed to more things if I could. I had more money. I haven't figured out what my passion is, so I'm just sort of doing work right now, bare minimum, to get by just for money. I don't have the ability to jump up and go places and do all that type of activity right now. Awesome. We live, I believe, obviously because I don't know the future, but looking backwards over the course of my life, this is a great time in terms of technology. Now, there's some frightening things that people are upset about in terms of everything from privacy to, dependence on technology to a point that it begins to sort of hurt us as humans. But let's be positive. I'm someone, and I'm not at all ashamed, that one of my favorite places growing up, since I said I moved around a lot, not unusual for that time for somebody who grew up in a military situation, but unusual, I think, for people I talk to who are not from that kind of background, is the library. Because everywhere I went, that's one of the first places we would go. So, we're moving. Some places we live less than a year. Some places we live more than that. But it doesn't matter. There's always a library. And most of the time we lived with, on these military installations. So they're like little tiny mini towns, their own little societies. And they have their own little grocery stores. And they have their own little shopping stores, the commissary and the PX. They have their own medical, with everything. We had our own schools. We had our own, entertainment and pools and facilities for, fun and bowling alleys and all that kind of stuff. But we always had libraries, and it's one of the first places we always went. And we always, got our new library cards because I love a library. I moved recently out west in the U.S. here to the Las Vegas area, and one of the first things I did is go to find the library. And I actually was really happy. It's a great library, very close to my house. I love them. And some of my happiest memories growing up were, summer library programs where we kind of go in the summer and, you're not in school and you're just there all day. You get to read, and they'd have like clubs, and they'd have like little contests, who read how much, and you'd share, and sometimes they'd watch movies that, related to books we'd read, and I love that kind of stuff. How did I know I liked it? How did I know that maybe reading and learning and language and ideas were something that made me happy? I was exposed to it. So again, if you haven't had the opportunity in the past and you don't have the ability to jump up right now and start getting on planes and going all over the world, or trains or boats or whatever, we have every to me, I still can't understand. It seems almost magical sometimes. There's so much knowledge. It's like the greatest library that you ever imagined, and it's right there in front of you. And it's on your computer, and now it's on your phone. I mean, like, really? I'm at an age where this has happened as an adult, and it's amazing what's happened since just since the iPhone. And I'm not marketing specifically one company, but what's happened in just the last couple of years is amazing. I wouldn't have believed it if somebody described it to me. You could make a little phone that you could literally outlet almost all the content in the world. Not all of it, obviously. It's not the same as going to a museum and seeing in person, a work of art, but you can go look at it and see a picture of it on the internet right now. And that is just phenomenal. So my point is, there's not really an excuse for people who say, hey, I haven't been exposed. Okay, well, go online. And, some of the data I read about how much time people spend online that's not, work-related and just either, socializing or even worse, right? Especially for young people. Read about young people, they bully each other online, and they go and they are mean to each other, and they, there's a lot of time apparently wasted, right? So my argument is this: if you have access, then start using it for something to open up your experiences, because until you start to expose yourself to different things, you won't know if you like it. And it doesn't happen much, but every once in a while I'll be somewhere, and it's usually they're related to some sort of work event, and there'll be a group of people I don't know, and I'm in some place for work, and so large groups will go to like a restaurant or dinner, and someone in the group will say something like, so let's say we're going to a restaurant that has Indian food, and I'm getting excited because I have so many different types of Indian food that I love, and somebody in the group will say something like, oh, I just I don't think I'm going to like this, so I just don't think I'll be able to order anything off the menu. And it's like, oh, well, did you eat a specific dish before? You didn't like it? Sometimes Indian food, some dishes are spicy depending on what you like. I can understand that. Is there something specific that you didn't like? And they'll say, oh no, I've never actually had it, but I never would. I just know I wouldn't like it. That is the hallmark of someone who is not serious at all about taking advantage of this opportunity to be alive and to begin to understand, who are they? What do they think? What do they value? What do they like? What makes them happy? What makes them sad? What are your passions? When you tell me you're not even going to try, then yeah, you're never going to know. For all you know, you could have tried that, and it could have been the most divine thing you've ever had in your entire life. It could have changed everything in your life, and you could have been like Julia Child or someone who thought, oh my goodness, I'm an older person in life, and now I found this food, and now I ate this, and now I'm going to go and learn to to devote my entire life into the culinary arts. You don't know because you won't try. And I hear versions of that. Some people I'll talk to, and they'll say, oh, I would never travel, or I would never travel that far. I've met people who've never left the country that they are, born and lived in their whole life. I've met people who've never even left the state or the town, like that area, and not because they couldn't do it, not because they never had the financial resources, but they work. I'm usually meeting them at some sort of a work event. I'm giving some sort of a presentation or educational event, and so they are working. They're earning income. They tell me, why would I want to go there? And to me, is the same thing as saying, why would I want to try that? What? Really? It's so sad. It's to me like someone saying, oh, I went to an amusement park, a big theme park. I paid all this admission, and it was such a big theme park, and I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to stay right here at the front, and just sit on this bench and then have some popcorn because, I don't really need to see the rest of it. I've already seen enough. Really? Wow. I think my general assessment is that that's a fear. I think that people who didn't have sort of the experience I have of just constant change, total constant change, new country, new state, new people, new everything, constantly. I think that people who don't have that sometimes get into a mindset where they just believe that they're frightened of the unknown, and so they're just committed to, I'm going to stay in my corner, and because I know my corner, and I think they think it's safe, right? And I guess I don't really know. My argument might be that, part of what you see when you look at globalization and some of these things and the changes that are happening is it's not sufficient for someone to say that I'm not going to, enhance my skills or learn more knowledge. I don't want to, if somebody says today they don't want to learn to use the internet to an employer, I can't even imagine a job you can do without basic understanding of how to click on a website. I don't know if just the desire to just sit in your corner and not ever change is going to be rewarding. And I also know that if somebody feels that they don't know what their passion is, but they won't go out and expose themselves to anything, you'll never know, because you just keep eating the same food every day, and you're in the same place every day, and you're talking to the same people, and you're reading the same content, or you're not reading at all. So obviously, no, nothing's coming in. There's no new information. You don't know what you want. You don't know who you are. You know who you are in this one little area of the world, eating this food and exposed to these ideas. But that doesn't tell you anything about yourself. That's just one place. You don't have to physically get up and go anywhere, but you can go out and read and think and dream. And if you do that, you'll figure out what your passion is, because you'll start to expose yourself to different things. And a lot of things that you'll expose yourself to, you'll realize, I don't really like this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to, this isn't making me happy. I don't like it. But as you're doing that, you will find other things that you really were amazed that you do like. the bigger challenge that I think is when people, okay, so part one I think is just fear. Well, part one is exposure. But you have to have the ability to face your fear to be able to go out and be exposed to new ideas, even if it's just reading different websites or listening to different points of view or looking at different, like I said, content or thinking about different things. I mean, all of that, people are all frightened, and you shouldn't be ever frightened because you're you, and you're always going to be able to make good choices. It doesn't do anything but enhance and broaden and make your life better to take in new information. It doesn't at all challenge or hurt anything. It makes it great. But once you get beyond the fact that you're exposed to things, then what other people have as a challenge is they find something they do like. And they say, wow, I never knew this. I never thought about it. But now that I started spending time and I was, looking into more about turtles, I found out that not just a turtle, but a tortoise. I love tortoise content, and I want to devote my life to being around tortoises and a specific type of tortoise. This stuff happens all the time. You read about it, but a lot of people will then be embarrassed, right? And so you really have figured out what your passion is, but now you feel like other people will judge you poorly. You feel like other people will not approve, and then you just sort of repress and stuff your passion down secret somewhere, and you never let it out, and that's incredibly depressing and unhealthy. Once you figure out what your passion is, which is in general, you're exposed to new things. You start to figure out, hey, this I like, this I don't like. You have to find something you like and that you potentially can do competently or pretty well to make it your passion. I'm passionate about a lot of things that I don't do well at all. It doesn't mean I can make money at them or have a career for that. I might enjoy it as a hobby or an activity, but I can't do it well enough. I'm not competent enough at it to be able to make that something professional. But it might be something that I keep as a hobby, like swimming or something. But when I look at the concept of when I figure something I do like I know I love libraries. I love words and ideas. I love writing. I didn't think I liked speaking. I wasn't really sure about that growing up because I didn't talk a lot. Like I said, I'm very shy, very introverted. And we moved so much, I sort of felt like it's not the best investment of my time to get to invest into people so much in this location, in this school, because I'm only going to be here, for a few more months, and I'm going on to the next place, and I'll never see any of these people ever again. And it's not a bad thing. I just, it's just sort of how I internalize things, and being an introvert, it all sort of fed itself. But as I got older, I started to practice and expose myself to speaking, and I started to learn, I like this too. This is sort of a great combination of words I love reading and thinking about and creating, plus I get to express it, and I didn't know I liked to speak or to speak in a sort of, performing kind of style until I started to do it. And then I was like, this is great. So there you go, exposure. Once I figured it out, though, I had to have the confidence in myself to just go out there and then pursue it. That's where a lot of people trip up. A lot of people are just scared to death of what whoever their collective they is. Their parents, their peers, their friends, their neighbors, the people in their, fraternity or social group. I don't understand that necessarily, partially because I don't have a lot of, like I said, I moved around a lot. I didn't have, much family to begin with. Now I don't, have really much at all that I have communication with or relationships with, and I've lost my only sibling, so. And I'm not really social, so I never joined, a lot of social groups, and I'm introverted. So for me, I don't really understand that they won't like it, they won't approve. What if they laugh at me? I get people to laugh at me all the time. People make fun of me. People make fun of my, my strange sounding different work activities, but that doesn't bother me in the least. I mean, I'm not concerned about them. I'm following my passion for me. I love teaching. And now that I like to do other things and I travel for my other work, I need to teach, using technology. So I love teaching online. I'm not at all embarrassed or ashamed. I don't mind what anyone says. I love it. I love speaking. I love speaking about, legal issues as an attorney. And I love speaking and performing, in a comedy club just for fun. I like it. It's my passion. Just like I said as a young child, and someone would try to get me to, eat some chocolate, and I'd say, no, I know I don't like it. I've had it like 9 times, and the last 9 times it was gross. So when I say no, I'm not being rude. I'm just saying this is not my passion, and I'm not going to let somebody else bully me, into doing something I don't want to do. That's peer pressure. I'm following my own muse. And it's the same thing with your passion. When you figure out what it is, if it's books or tortoises or trampolines or whatever, do it. Do it. Thank you so much for joining me. You can always, again, come to CourtneyAnderson.com for more information. And hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks.